Hey, I was muted that whole time I was starting to talk, which is pretty cool. You love it? A nice little Christmas present for for all of the viewers out there, just watching me talking to my microphone and not hearing anything. So me looking like a dumb boy, any dumb idiots out there? Yeah, that's me. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Victorious POD. It is Thursday, December 23rd, 2021, one day before Christmas Eve, the eve of Christmas Eve. Jack, I am joined by Jack. What up, buddy? How we doing?
Good. Ready for Christmas.
Are you ready for the pod to end already?
No, I'm not ready for it to end. I'm just
ready for it.
I'm ready to get going.
Okay.
Yeah, more just ready to start. That's a good way to say it.
Perfect. All right. So we are the Victorious POD. We are I better stop that. I don't want that to keep going. I forget that starts over. We are the Victorious POD. We are recording. We are also live. We are a live stream. We are a podcast about fantasy football. We are live here on Twitch for the very first time as a podcast. That's right. You can find this podcast now at www.twitch.tv/PanicManWalters. I am the Panic Man Walters, and join with me is my good buddy Jack. Jack, I
am not the Panic Man Walters.
You are not the Panic Man Walters. I believe you have an online handle that you use. You go by many names. Some say you are Vickers Jack. Some say you are Mehoff. Some say you are Big Vic. I don't know the number behind your name, but whatever it is, we'll figure it out as we go. I just have a couple of announcements to mention here. Like I said, we did move to Twitch because we are trying to see if we can make a little bit of money. Now, I know we've had a donation link sent out, and we still have that same donation link. You can check that in the show notes, and the show notes will be provided after this episode is over with. But we switched over to Twitch because the threshold to be able to monetize is a lot lower than what YouTube is, and we feel like we might have a better shot getting somewhere starting on Twitch rather than beating our head against the wall trying to get 1,000 subs on YouTube. We can't even break the 100 barrier yet, which is everybody's fault. That is your fault. If you are watching, it is absolutely your fault that we have not hit 100 subs yet on YouTube. Deal with it.
If they're watching, wouldn't that mean that they're one of the people?
I mean, they might be. I mean, I suppose, but whatever. So, if you do go to YouTube, you can search the Victorious POD and find us there. Please follow and subscribe. If you're mad that I told you it was your fault, stay mad. It was a joke. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not. Anyways, two last things that we wanted to mention. There is no show next Thursday because of the eve of New Year's Eve. I'm busy doing things with my beautiful wife, and Jack is busy as well. But don't fret. We do have a show coming to you live Friday, New Year's Eve at 10 a.m. here right on Twitch. So be sure to join us for that. I'd like to thank all of our donors. If you had donated to our podcast, we thank you very much. You are the lifeblood of this podcast, and we appreciate it very much. I'd like to shout out Levi Oki. He is responsible for all this beautiful artwork that you see. So if you want to see more of his artwork, you can see him on Instagram at Levi Oki Illustration. If you're looking to get a hold of us, you can check out the show notes. It has all of our links to our socials and to our Discord. Please join the Discord. And as always, you can find us here on Twitch as well. Jack, that wraps it up for me. Do you have any announcements before we get going, sir?
I don't think I have any exciting announcements. If anybody's watching the Thursday Night Football game, Deebo Samuel, shout out to his golden visor. It looks really cool. That's all I got.
Right on. Okay. We will do that. So I just want to shout out to our 4 viewers that we have in chat so far. Thank you guys very much for checking us out on Twitch. If you have followed Panic Man Walters on Twitch, that is, I very much appreciate that. So thank you very much. We are going to get into our next segment, which, Jack, what is our next segment?
Wouldn't you like to know?
I would.
Our next segment is the NFL Pick'em. Unfortunately, I don't like to talk about it a lot because I'm not doing super hot this year. But we're going to rattle off how last week's results went. Overall, pretty good for most of the group, except for the stupid people that picked the Cardinals to beat apparently the dominant Detroit Lions, which were myself, Alex, and Jared. All three of us got it wrong. Everybody else that picked not them was correct, with Walters picking the Cowboys over the Giants, Connor picking the Packers over the Ravens, Foster going KC over the Chargers in a close overtime last-minute winner. Garlic going with the 49ers over the Falcons. Brandon went with the Texans over the Jags. And Luke went with the Colts over the Patriots. So everyone was correct, picked a different team, which is kind of interesting. Usually you see the same 2 or 3 matchups. But moving on to this week, we have myself going with the Lions over the Falcons. We have Walters picking against the Vikings again with the Rams. Connor going Chargers over the Texans. Alex going the Chargers over the Texans. Jared going the Chargers over the Texans. Foster and Luke are both going the Bucks over Carolina. Garlic is going the Colts over the Cardinals. It should be an interesting one with 2 top seeds there. And finally, Brandon is going Packers over Browns.
Nice. I like it. All right. Give me 1 second here. Why don't we move right on into our next segment, Jack? What is our next segment?
Sure. Keep it in. We're going to go into the streaming section that everybody loves to hear to kind of tell you what to do with this playoff matchup coming up and all the different key players that are out with injuries or out on COVID lists or whatever. So we are going to be going into the swimming upstream pick. Walters will get the pictures and boards on there for how we did last week, but just overall the season. But from last week, we had me picking Justin Fields and Walters picking Big Ben. Edged you out a little bit, but I don't know if either of them were great. I had Justin Fields with 16.9, and you had Big Ben with 11.9 also. So a little bit of grossness. You maybe could have survived with some Fields, but you wouldn't have felt good.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll see. 1 second here. We will be. That's not it.
Well, I'll just go into next week's while you're getting stuff set up there. Yeah. For this week, I'm going with a little bit of a surprise one. He's performed respectably for normally a QB1, but I am going to be picking Tyler Huntley from the Ravens. We're still waiting on reports of whether Lamar is going to start this week. So if he ends up starting, obviously Huntley would not be in play whatsoever. But I think if Lamar is out, Huntley could be the top quarterback pickup this week easily. He's performed respectably. I think he looks very comfortable in the Lamar role. They picked a nice backup where they can still kind of do the same stuff with Huntley's mobility. So I like him this week. I think he could have a good chance there. If Lamar does end up playing, though, I will probably pivot to Justin Fields just for that rushing ability.
Nice. I picked Tua this week simply because of I feel like no matter what, Tua has probably been our most consistent the most consistent of all of our streamers that we've had. And so I feel like I just want to keep rolling with him, and we will absolutely keep doing that. Jack, I'm sorry that I screwed up a few things, so I appreciate
You're good.
you.
No worries.
So right on. Garlic in the chat just ripping me for the disrespect towards Jack, and so I totally get it. But whatever.
What?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
What disrespect?
I had some of my the overlays that I copied over. For some reason they were all jumbled, so you had the wrong nameplate and everything like that. So, but we're getting it all figured out.
Oh, how dare you!
I know. All right, so I just really liked Tua this week, so we're gonna keep rolling with Tua. I think that he has a favorable matchup against New Orleans this week. So, Alex, we'll get to that in a little bit. Sure. We're just gonna keep moving on. This has been fantastic. Jack, do you have anything else that you want to add in this portion?
No, that's it for mine. Trying to round out the swimming upstream on a decent note this year, hoping we can still make a back end QB1. Obviously, it wasn't as good as last year's, but confident we'll at least survive.
To clarify, I didn't make any more I didn't keep adding up our totals in the little box. You can see that I just said that we finished off as number 15 quarterback on the season. But if
Well, never mind.
were curious, I mean, I can keep doing it. If people are curious, so I do have weeks 14, 15, and 16 for the picks that we've all made with point totals and the weekly quarterback ranks. They are still on there for sure. So,
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. So,
if I pick well, then we can put them up. If I pick bad, we'll just pretend that that's when we stopped.
Perfect. All right. Let's move into our Streamer Showdown challenge.
Yes, sir.
Last week we had Jack with a commanding 84.36. He has topped his last week's score of 82.5. And Jack, why don't you just quickly tell us who your players were and how they did?
Officially through 5 weeks and multiple guests, by the way, I do have the top 3 scores overall. So just gonna humbly brag about that. As far as this week, I am doubling down on my streamer swimming upstream pick with Tyler Huntley at quarterback. He's obviously only rostered at 9.2% right now. So most people are just assuming Lamar is going to be coming back. If he does end up playing, buddy, I will once again pivot.
We were talking about last week, unless you were talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Can you talk about your last week's score for us real quick?
Really quick last week. My quarterback didn't do me a lot of favors with Taysom Hill only getting me 9 points, but I had a lot of help with my running backs and receivers. I had Deonta Foreman, Devontae Parker, Russell Gage, and Christian Kirk all get me between 14 and 19 points, and that's all guys that were 61% owned or less. So I mean, just got really lucky with some explosions, a few touchdowns, but all of them had some pretty consistent work. Pretty much my only duds, I would say, would be Taysom, even as a streaming quarterback, getting under 10 points with his rushing ability was disappointing. And then Tyler Conklin. But if you're streaming a tight end, you already know you got problems. So ended up with 84.36 points.
Yeah, and that's a season high so far for our Streamer Showdown challenge, which is very, very impressive. So hats off to you. Last week, I chose Ben Roethlisberger. He did me better than Taysom Hill, but not good enough to get me anywhere close to what Jack did. He had 11.92 points. And then Deonta Foreman, who had 14.5, and the rest of my other players were absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. But that's the way it goes. Foster, who also participated with us last week, he did fairly decent as well. He scored a respectable 69.94, and some people may even think that he just by default won the week. So there you go. He had Tua, Deonta Foreman, Rashad Penny. He didn't do much. Gabriel Davis with the monster 23 points. Do we have another player who has scored more than 23 points that is not a quarterback? Have you scored?
I will vet that quick while you continue going.
Right on. And then Devonta Parker had 14.8 points as well. So
that didn't take me long. Elijah Moore had 25.6 for you on the first week we did this, but that is all I believe.
Okay, cool.
So
right on.
Second highest non-quarterback score ever so far.
Nice. Okay. All right.
Also, Foster, we've only been doing guests for 3 weeks. Sorry to cut you off, but he does have the high score for a guest so far. And I think he has the high score for anyone except me. So between you and him, Foster is currently the second highest score.
Right on.
So shout out Foster.
I want to shout out real quick. J Krabs 93 has followed my channel, so I really, really appreciate that, man. Welcome.
I'm assuming that's Josh. Thanks, Josh Crabtree.
Welcome in. We don't want to.
That's definitely not him.
We don't want to dox.
Could be.
We don't want to dox people here. So let's stick to pseudonyms if possible. All right. Moving on here. We are going to be doing this week's Streamer Showdown Challenge, and our special guest this week is none other than our commissioner, Super T, or as we Super Tyler. They're all the same person. He's found in our Discord, so shout out to him. This week, he went with Justin Fields, Jeff Wilson Jr., Ronald Jones, Christian Kirk, Gabriel Davis, Cole Kmet, Deonta Foreman. Jack, who are your stream team this week?
I have 3, possibly 4 of the same ones as him. So we got some great minds thinking alike here. Like I mentioned a little earlier, I'm going with Tyler Huntley on the condition that Lamar obviously doesn't start. I mean, any sensible fantasy player would sub out a quarterback if they weren't going to play. So if Huntley ends up not getting the start, I'm going to go with Fields as well, like Tyler. Then my running backs, Ronald Jones and Jeff Wilson, technically both matching Tyler. As flex, I have my third running back, Alexander Madison, which I pivoted to that today with the news. A lot of you guys have probably seen that Dalvin Cook is going to be out this week. Madison has been like an RB1 every single time he's been in for Cook this year and beyond. So really, really like him even against a tough Rams defense. Receivers wise, I am going with Russell Gage again. I went with him last week, maybe the last couple of weeks. He's just getting decent targets and decent target share in Atlanta with really nobody else to throw to. And then the rookie upstart for the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's looking really, really good. He's kind of starting to break out over these last 3-4 weeks, so they might have a wide receiver one finally in Detroit again. And then tight end, I'm going with Cole Kmet, also from Chicago.
Okay. All right. Now, before I list my team off, I just wanted to ask you how it's a little bit on-air discussion, production meeting. How would you feel if all three of us mainly had the same roster for this? Like, if we all, because the way we do it is we all blindly pick our players, and then
Right.
I'll put them in at the same time so that nobody knows who's picking who. But if we all have the same players, are we doing a service to the people, or is that considered a boring segment?
I think it's more of a service to the people. I don't think it's boring. I mean, I think usually on a given week, you can probably pick the top 2 to 3 at each position of like who's likely to have the best matchup or to go off. So if you see 2 of us or even 3 of us all picking the same guy and you're in desperate need of that position, like if all 3 of us ended up picking Kmet, for example, and you're like, damn, I'm like, maybe you're the Kelsey owner who found out he might be out this week and you need to pick up a tight end. It's a good thing to show that like, hey, all of us are in unison on that. I think it's just gives you more confidence rather than completely mixed teams that might make it more fun for the competition. But I think it's kind of just more of like, well, who knows who's going to be right? It's all a lottery ticket anyway. So
correct.
That's my take.
Because my roster here is definitely not the roster I wanted to go with initially. Like, definitely wanted to play Ronald Jones. Definitely wanted to play Alexander Madison. Definitely wanted to play Jeff Wilson Jr. Well, just because I wasn't sure for the bit what we want to do. Now, I'm not complaining about my score or my team. I will still ride with it. It's absolutely fine. It's a team. But I just wasn't sure where you stood. So that's why I proposed this question. So moving forward, whatever team I write down is the team I'm going to use. And if we all have the same team next week, then so be it. It just shows it just shows the listeners and the viewers how, I wouldn't say bullish, but how confident we are. If these were our desperation start plays. So these would be
exactly.
And we would choose.
And I mean, you're trying to beat me in this too. So I wouldn't want to make you feel like you get to take the second options. Like if anything, maybe if you and I and the guest all pick the same player, maybe we can like discuss, who would have been your second option, just so we give the listeners another choice. But don't handicap your team. And then I'm going to be like, not able to enjoy if I do win this week as much, because I'll be like, oh, well, he would have had so and so and so.
Yeah, I've been doing this for the last few weeks. And I'm not trying to make excuses. Really, I'm not. I'm just letting you know exactly. All right, so I'm just going to go over my team then real quick. So Carson Wentz, Mike Davis, simply because of well, it's not going to be the volume this week because Cordell Patterson is just going to have a heyday. DJ Dallas, this pick here is interesting to me because I would say he had a breakout week last week, so I'm just going to see if I can chase those points and go back to the well with DJ Dallas. Russell Gage, who has been probably on my roster each week we've started this. Alan Lazard, simply for the fact that MVS could be out due to COVID. Jared Cook, because all of the other tight ends either had a garbage matchup or they were a garbage NFL tight end. And then, of course, Deonta Foreman because of volume. So that is my Streamer Showdown Challenge team, and I don't think I have anything else. Jack, do you have any last comments before we move on?
No. I think we're good. I think it'll be interesting. I think Tyler and I have a lot of overlap, and you've got a couple of the same players in there too. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, right on. We are going to be moving on to our next segment, which is going to be our it's our Discord discussion segment. And this segment is the segment where we usually tell everybody what it is we are eating or drinking or whatever. So, Jack, are you snacking on anything? Do you have a beer for us that you can show us?
I was so thirsty. I was waiting for the segment the whole time. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I am actually drinking a beer for once during the show. I usually am not. I'm usually lame with water or stuff. But there's a brewery nearish to our house over in kind of the Hudson side called Pitchfork. If any of you have ever been there or heard of it, it's not far off the highway.
Oh no, Jack, we lost you.
Where did I go?
I'm not sure.
You lost me. You just went and hung up on me. It says you're not here anymore. So
really,
did Pitchfork Brewing shut down our podcast because they didn't want me to speak unsponsored? Or
it's quite possible.
That or another brewery hacked in. They're like, no free airtime for this brand. I don't think so.
I'm getting back in.
Well, this makes me sad. Yeah, it looks like it kicked you out. That's strange. All right, folks, I'm coming back. Sorry, you're going to have to see my face still. Maybe that was the viewers. Maybe they were just all voting to be like, can we just cut Jack's camera off so we don't have to look at him? Anyways, so yeah, Pitchfork Brewery. I highly recommend it. It's very, very good. It's actually pretty cheap too. You can get a 4-pack of their own home brewed beers for like $10. But my favorite one here, I don't know if you're going to really be able to see that, is their French Toast Ale. And it does indeed, it tastes a lot like it. They got a couple of other flavored ones though. So I always enjoy those. And that's what I'm having this week.
Perfect. All right. I love it. What I have for us today is something I've been rocking the last few weeks. It is a Take 16. And let's see if I can get it right. Country Mile Kolsch. Nice, easy, smooth drinking beer. I don't know if you caught that.
Oh, I heard it. Oh, look at that. By the way, speaking of our streamer thing, Jeff Wilson, 1-yard rush for a touchdown right off the bat.
I mean, he's not here, but
what? Who's not here?
Never mind. Oh, I don't think I had him. Whatever. Sorry, I
meant for my running back pick, Jeff Wilson. He just scored a touchdown. That's what I was saying.
I don't know if I had him. Whatever. Cool. Garlic is chatting there. Oh, you know what? So before we get into our Discord discussion real quick, also, are you snacking on anything before we get going?
I am not. I'm not snacking on anything. I'm just snacking on a beer.
My lovely wife who came down and told me to hurry the hell up and get this podcast over because I have stuff to do tonight. She so nicely baked me some Rice Krispie treats. So it's kind of like, do you know what a compliment sandwich is?
No.
Okay, so in the review process with your boss, you'll sit down and you'll walk into your boss's office.
I know this from Family Guy. That's the reason I know
exactly. They'll start you off with a compliment. Something you need to improve.
Something good. You look like Snoopy and it makes me smile.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you. I know what you mean now.
Okay, so she comes down and says, "Hey, excited for your pod tonight. Have a great pod. You need to hurry the hell up because you've got stuff to do." And then she goes, here's some Rice Krispie treats. So thank you to my lovely wife. She got me some Rice Krispie treats. So that was fantastic.
I feel I'm not gonna say all, but I feel like some women do that more than we realize because we're guys and we're stupid. Oh, yeah. So I feel like that happens all the time where even Christine will do that to me. And then I'll be like, oh, that was a super nice thing to say. And I'll completely like not acknowledge the middle part of the sandwich, let's say. But then in my brain, I'll be like, well, I got to do it. I mean, it was nice of her to bring me these for no other reason. And wait a minute. Now I know why.
Yep. We are trained like little dogs. It's ridiculous. So
facts.
All right.
Anyway.
Alex in the chat says, by the way, thanks Alan Gar for hitting up the old Twitch chat. We really appreciate that. Alex says, when do we get the video games? That will be coming. You will be able to see me stream Call of Duty and other various video games here on this Twitch channel as well. So yeah, there's that. And then Garlic has just been spewing all sorts of stuff. So,
Sounds about right.
yeah. Yeah, Gar has been saying things like it's been saying face a squire underneath your camera frame. That's my bad because of how I have my overlays set, but we are correcting those issues as they come, so that won't happen. All right. There was actually a great Discord discussion that we kind of started up yesterday, and we are talking about quarterbacks who are taking a knee at the end of a game. And apparently, across fantasy football, the fantasy football universe, there were people who lost because Matt Stafford was taking a knee, and those negative points affected the outcome of their matchup. So I posed the question in Discord: Do you think that the fantasy apps should take this into account? Should it be like the intentional walk, where if you're going to kneel down, or should it be changed in the NFL so that it's never an issue on the fantasy apps? But that's a different discussion. The question is should quarterbacks get penalized for kneel downs? Jack, I know you feel very strong about this one way, and we'll give you the floor to start.
Yeah. So I kind of tossed this out in our home league, just chat, because I started seeing that all over on Twitter, talking about people that literally lost based on the 1 yard loss to Stafford taking the knee backward. I personally think it should just be negated. Like there's been other things that fantasy football has done in terms of like not counting, like say the Vikings are playing the Packers and say the Packers pick the ball off and run it back for a touchdown, not penalizing the Vikings defense, even though technically the Packers scored so many points. So like there's been other things where they've gone around it to make sense. Since like the defense didn't technically give up the points the offense did. And I feel like your comparison to baseball, which I made earlier too, like they did away with the whole intentional walk of, okay, everybody agrees this is what we want to do. We want to put this guy on first base. Do we really need to go through the motion of throwing 4 pitches? I feel like that's very similar, granted in a different sport, to this, where yes, I get the concept of, well, they got to kneel it down because there could be a fumble or there could be this and that. But I feel like at least in the terms of, when like the other team can't do anything to stop it. So maybe not necessarily like at the end of the first half if they're just choosing to kneel the clock down, but in the end of the game, when it's a formality, the other team doesn't have any timeouts left, it's under 2 minutes, like you literally will just be kneeling it out. I think that it should be an automatic thing. So either fantasy football as a whole just decides to not count it as a negative, or more realistically, I think just for like fan viewership and enjoyment, the NFL itself could just say, okay, you want to do it? Automatic, run 40 seconds off the clock or 38 seconds or whatever we want to do, and then just have that be auto, because then it wouldn't even need to come down to whether fantasy football counts it. We could just get rid of that altogether. So that's my initial 2 cents on it.
So yeah, my question is let's say you have, I don't know how much, so you get what, 40 seconds between each play, is that right?
Yep. Yeah, assuming you hike it a second or two before, but yeah, 40 seconds basically.
Okay. So if 40 seconds. So for
minute 20, 2 minutes for 3 downs.
Okay. So if there's a minute 20 left in the game and it's first down and you're up and you have the ball, can you go up to the ref and say, we're going to essentially kneel it 3 times and we're going to run a minute 20 off the clock. And so is the referee then going to say, the home team has elected to kneel all their last 3 downs, running a minute 20 off the clock. The game is over. See you guys later. How logistically, how do you think that would work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that would probably make the most sense. Like maybe you set it at, so one kneel down essentially wastes 40 seconds, because obviously you have to hike it a second or two before the play clock is done, but then also takes a second or two for the actual action of hike, step, kneel down. I think if it's, let's say 2 minute drill or 2 minutes or under, and the other team has 0 timeouts, then yeah, I think that would be kind of how I would envision it. I just think it's silly regardless. Even if they still wanted to force you to take the knee, I just don't think that should count as like, oh, that's weird. Stafford had 2 carries today for -2 yards. Like, why are we, I mean, we're not, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I would be fine if the NFL just did that, where it was like, hey, we agree we're doing this. Okay, sounds good. I think a lot of like the extracurricular activities that happen, like when one team beat the other team by 30 points, so it's basically over. I feel like they hike the ball and you always see like 2 or 3 guys that start fighting or shoving, and that's when penalty flags get tossed out and the game all of a sudden takes 5 minutes longer. So it's just kind of like why, what are we doing this? Or there have been times where like the nose guard shoved the center back onto the quarterback and the quarterback had him fall on his leg or his knee and he got hurt. Like, there's nothing to be gained from it. I'm sure it's happened once or twice in the history of the NFL where something has gone awry. Like the quarterback falling back in stat, or maybe somewhere in some game they fumbled the ball. But like even the miracle at the Meadowlands, which some people know, that wasn't even a kneeling situation. That was them trying to hand the ball off and it was fumbled. So like if it's happened, it's got to be the 0.0001% time where forcing them to kneel it has impacted the game whatsoever. Like, I can't remember the last time that it's actually caused anything to happen other than them just kneeing the ball. So I feel like it's a silly thing to do. I feel like it's a waste of time. It only opens up chances for like fluke injuries or penalties and fighting. Granted, if there's like a timeout or two, I think that is a different situation altogether. And if they're, like I said, kneeling in the first half, I don't feel that same way. But I more just think it's silly from like an NFL standpoint besides a fantasy football standpoint.
So I think the way you have to approach it is that if you're going to be kneeling down and the opposing team has timeouts left, you have to go through those motions. But if the other team has no timeouts left, then essentially you should just be able to tell the ref, hey, we're burning the clock. We're going to be kneeling on all 3 of these plays. Let's just take the time off the clock, and that's probably going to have to
be the best way to
go about it.
I mean, then it kind of also makes you focus more on trying to like save your timeouts here and there too, because you're going to need them, so you can't just have an automatic game over. So
yeah. All right. Garlic is just lighting us up because we're bad at math. Hey, we like football, not math. This isn't a math game. We have computers.
What did I do incorrectly on math?
Well, apparently 60 seconds is 1 minute, and 3 kneel downs back to back to back is apparently 2 minutes, which.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. Okay.
You said 3 was 1:20 at one point, but
I don't know. Yeah,
overall, yeah,
whatever.
40 seconds, 1:20, 2
Doesn't
minutes.
matter.
It's 3 plays.
Anyways, I have fantasy football apps add up my scores for me. That's fine. I don't care. That's fine. I don't think. Let's see here. Tyler was Super T. Tyler, our wonderful commissioner, he was in agreement with you. I think Garlic was against this. He thinks that the quarterback should be.
Yeah, he disagreed, but he didn't really say specifically why. So, Garlic, if you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear it, because I'm not like saying that my side is right or anything. Like, I'm open to either or. I guess I just more wanted to bring up the question of like, why has this not even been discussed about a different way of doing it? I don't know. So, love to hear opposing takes, Garlic, or anybody else who's hearing this now. Feel free to toss that in why you think it doesn't make sense, or if you have examples of, oh yeah, there was a college game 2-3 years ago where so-and-so such and such happened and then blah, blah. Like, let me know. But just based on face value and me looking at it on paper, I just think it's kind of silly. So
yeah, I would agree. Okay. I don't think we have anything else going on in the Discord. If you'd like to join the Discord, it's in the link is in the show notes below. So please make sure that you join the Discord and you can participate with us. It is the absolute best way to interact with us and everybody here who participates. So we are going to be moving on to our Victoria's Secret League segment. This segment is mainly about our league, but what our focus is here on this league is not to focus on the league members themselves and what their matchups are, but it's going to give you we like to focus on the players that are on their team. So we will be talking about players more than the actual teams, so that you guys are not lost and bored and just be like, why the heck would I want to hear about a fantasy football league? It's about our league, but it's about general fantasy players as well. So there's still quite the incentive to listen. Moving on here, we had our playoff bracket. Round 1 has been completed. Jordan and I both had a bye week this past week. I had 108.6. Jordan had 73.76. And the matchups that we did have, it was Foster who was facing Jay, Kiss My Bass versus Grocery Store Joe. Foster had 104.7, while Jay scored 88.36. So sorry to Jay.
Blowout.
And the most interesting
Speaking of blowouts.
Yeah, the most interesting matchup of the week was Ben versus Tyler, Super T. Tyler scored an amazing 35.78 points. That's a yikes, right?
Yeah, that's officially our lowest score in any week, regular season or playoffs ever in the history of our league. We did have a almost as low a score in the regular season, so this is by far the playoff low one, but Tyler's team just brutalized by some injuries and COVID issues and stuff. So, I mean, definitely not his fault. He wasn't making any silly starts or anything. Just, his team happened to get hit a lot worse than others, and really never had a chance from the start. So, Jay and Tyler, bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. Good luck next year. Thanks for participating. You guys had really good seasons, and that's pretty much it. Can we backtrack for just like 1 second? Garlic is blowing up our Discord because we apparently missed something. So just gonna backtrack here real quick. Garlic asked, is this move to Twitch a power grab from Jack using Walter's personal Twitch channel? That is some partnership. Jack, do you even have a Twitch account?
I do have a Twitch. I don't stream super often, but I have been more recently. It did look a little bit weird because when I went to share the links for us going live in my normal spots, it was just a big picture of your cartoon Twitch face. So it might look a little more odd to click on it first, but people will get used to it.
Yeah, it's going to be different. And, if we're ever able to get enough money where Jack can build himself a computer or get a laptop that can, stream, we'll stream from his account, or maybe if he trusts me with his login info, I can always stream from my place on his account as well.
Yeah, everyone go donate so that I can get a new laptop. Just kidding.
So, hey, whatever works, man. So Garlic, I'm sorry it took so long to answer your question and we skipped over it. So, there is that.
I'm not sorry.
Okay. All right. We are actually going to be continuing to move on back to our regular programming. And we will be talking about our matchups here now coming up. We didn't have any waivers because waivers are running tonight. So normally if we would have waivers, they would be there, but they are not. So there is
just due to the Tuesday games this past week getting pushed back, it kind of threw everything else out of whack.
Let me know when you're back, and then I'll put your camera back on. Actually, I can see it in the studio mode. So, so we have the first matchup this week, which is Cassie versus Ryan, and looking at these two lineups here, everybody that is in Cassie's lineup looks like it's going to be a pretty much a home run, except for my question is Marquise Brown. And I see that Terry McLaurin is on Cassie's bench. Is Terry McLaurin playing this week? It looks like he is. Would you be playing?
He is playing. I believe he's fully healthy, but he's just done very minimal lately, mostly because of terrible quarterback play. So, I mean, he's a good receiver, but he just hasn't had a lot to work with.
Okay. Would you be, so you're comfortable starting Marquise Brown over Terry McLaurin?
I don't know if I'd say comfortable. I'm back, by the way.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I'd say comfortable just because with Lamar out, I think Huntley has only had eyes for Mark Andrews, but it's tough between the two because they're both really good young receivers that are just being destroyed kind of by their current quarterback situation. So it's probably a 50-50 shot. If Lamar plays, I'd go Hollywood for sure. If not, I would maybe lean McLaurin just because I expect him to figure it out easier than Hollywood with Huntley in, but it's close.
Okay. All right. Then looking over at Ryan's side, you have all of his players that he has, except for maybe, well, Cole Beasley needs to be replaced because he's not playing. Tyler Boyd is on his bench. I would assume that you'd put Tyler Boyd in for Cole Beasley at this point. And what about Foster Moreau? Is Foster Moreau do anything for you for having to stream a tight end?
I mean, not really. Like, you're streaming a tight end, so it's not going to be pretty either way. I think as long as Waller's out, he's as okay of a pick as any, but I believe he's kind of banged up too. So if Ryan were in contention, I would probably suggest he go to the waiver wire because I think there's better options like even Komet, who both Tyler and I said to stream this week. I would like him over Moreau, but it's not like one's an obvious play and the other one's, much lower. They're both streamers for a reason. So
if you don't have the top, 3 or 4 tight ends, you're literally throwing a dart.
It's irrelevant.
So
there's the top 3 or 4, the next 10, and then a bunch of streamers that you're like, I just hope he catches a touchdown and that's it.
Yeah, pretty much. So Foster Moreau did have 6.5 points last week. Who is he playing this week? Denver? Yikes. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would.
It's gross.
Yeah, I'd probably search for something different. I don't know. All right, we are going to be moving on to our next matchup here. And that is Alex versus Josh. Alex, at this point, or when I took the picture, he is starting Derek Carr, and he still has him in his lineup. Would you be starting Derek Carr over Jalen Hurts this week?
Hell no. Definitely not. Jalen Hurts has way more upside. Hurts lit it up last week. I know he was questionable all week, so I was even hesitant to play him in a couple leagues where I have him, but Hurts just rushing ability alone, plus the fact that he's playing the Giants, if he's healthy, would definitely have me go him. Carr and the Raiders team in general, I know they kind of started out on a hot start and he was looking pretty good, but since the whole Henry Ruggs thing, which we won't talk about, and then Darren Waller being hurt, the Raiders just have not been able to move the ball. So I don't know that I would be starting Carr in pretty much any league that I had the option.
Yeah. Moving on. Let's see here. His wide receivers are yucky except for Stephon Diggs, who hasn't lived up to this year's potential, but I do see that he has Adam Thielen on his bench. If Adam Thielen is a go, do you sub out Tim Patrick for Adam Thielen?
Yeah, Patrick would be my third choice out of the 3. I would go Diggs, Thielen, Claypool, Patrick, if you had to put those guys in order. But Thielen has just surpassed expectations this year, hasn't regressed in the touchdown department. I think even coming off of his first game off of an injury, I would definitely start him. I don't know that I expect him to play this week, but he did have a limited practice today, so they're trying to see how he does.
Okay, looking over here on Josh's side, I see that Josh Jacobs is on his bench. Do you play Josh Jacobs over Ronald Jones this week?
Probably not, just with the news of Fournette being out. Ronald Jones is going to get all the carries for the most part, so I think just volume alone, I would definitely lean his way. I'd try to find a way to get Josh Jacobs in your lineup if you had him, because, he still is getting decent volume, but at least on Josh's team specifically, I don't know that there's really an option. He's got Tyreek in his flex. He's got Najee and Ronald Jones as his 2 running backs. You're not taking those guys out. Maybe you'd put Mooney in your flex and sub in Josh Jacobs, but Josh's team specifically, I think, makes sense why he's not in there.
Just to let you know, when you took your earpiece out, it sounded like you swallowed your mic. My bad.
Nope.
All right. I would agree with you as well. I would try and get Josh Jacobs in there. Ronald Jones, even though he is going to be the clear-cut number one with Fournette being out, I really think that it's a really risky move. If you're in the playoffs, I don't know if I would feel comfortable slotting him into my RB2 slot. If I needed to play him, I would probably throw him in my flex, but I wouldn't, I would be, I don't even know if I'd call it a desperation, but he's definitely, for me, he sits at the RB3 of infinite sadness, or however you say
agreed.
it.
He's more of a flex guy than a confident RB2.
Correct. All right. We are going to be moving on to our next matchup here, which is
the current top two in the losers bracket, just saying.
Yeah, we got Katie and Jack. Jack on the left side, then he waddled away. Still waddle. You must have changed your lineup since I took these pictures this afternoon. But you have Travis Kelce. He's actually still in your tight end.
Yeah, he's still in.
Is he playing?
I'm waiting for news. He's questionable. He's on the COVID IR right now, but if he's asymptomatic and they take a couple of tests, he still has a chance. So there have been no updates since Monday on what's happening. We're basically just waiting to find out.
What's your confidence level in James Conner this week?
I know he's questionable, so it's all a matter of whether he actually starts. He said on Thursday, due to his heel injury, he still expects to play, but he hasn't practiced yet. So assuming he plays, I feel pretty good just because he's like at the top end for touchdowns in the league right now on the running side of things. So I know the Colts run defense is really, really good, but I think just based on his red zone usage with the Cardinals, I'd probably put him at like an RB2 with upside. So not going to get a lot of rushing yards. He really hasn't all year for the most part, but if he gets even 50 or 60 and has one or two shots to score, I mean, that's good. So maybe like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 if he plays, a little lower than normal weeks against the decent defense, but probably a mid RB2 for me.
Okay, and one last question for you. Why do you have Amari Cooper in over Jalen Waddle?
Great question. I just haven't really decided between the two of them yet. Waddle's been getting a ton of targets, but they also had Devontae Parker come back last week, so I'm kind of nervous to see if that'll affect it. Waddle's really only been good because of his volume, whereas Cooper, I believe they're going up against Washington this week, and Washington's secondary is like one of the worst. So I think I was looking at partly at that just to see. But yeah, if I was in the playoffs currently still in this league, then I might look a little bit more at it. But it's close between the two of them. Currently,
Amari Cooper, the 30th ranked wideout in the Victoria's Secret Fantasy Football League. The last 3 weeks, he has posted a .08, 11.1, and 4.1 game score. Looking at Jalen Waddle, who I personally would be putting in there over Amari Cooper. Jalen Waddle is looking at let's see, what's his rank? He is wide receiver 24 on the season. In the last 3 weeks, he has had 19.7, and 12.6. He's playing the Jets this week, which I feel like is a terrible team with terrible defense and a terrible fan base. And
he's playing New Orleans, just so you know.
New Orleans? Sorry, my bad. Why?
Which that's another part of it is because they've got Marshawn Lattimore, who I don't know who he's going to line up against from the Dolphins receivers, but Lattimore is really, really good, and the Saints defense has been pretty good too. So I feel like the matchups are very different. Like you're talking Amari going against one of the worst secondaries, and then Waddle going against a pretty good defense. So I think that must have been what kind of coin flipped it for me. But
some people have been saying that the Saints defense isn't necessarily what it was chalked up to be, like at the beginning of the season. Like as the season has gone on, they've regressed, and people have been feeling more comfortable playing wide receivers against New Orleans defense. Have you heard anything like that, or have you not had that sentiment at all this year?
I mean, I feel like from my brief knowledge, I feel like the Saints defense has been pretty good. They're not like elite or anything, and I think part of it's probably due to their offense not putting up a lot of points, but they're the number 7 ranked defense when it comes to fantasy. So I mean, pretty decent, but I mean, not elite it's enough for me to like when I'm comparing them versus Washington football team's defense for me to lean that way. But I don't put a ton of stock into it unless it's like a top end defense.
Garlic is going crazy in the chat saying things like the Saints defense shut out Tom Brady. Okay, you know, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, buddy. I mean, it's like, you know, the Detroit Lions beat the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, come on. Like, this is the NFL, dude.
Like
Anybody can win any
Like I
week.
said, I think the Saints are a top 10 defense this year. I just don't think they're like one of the top 2 or 3. But again, Waddle going against the Saints is enough for me to push to start Amari Cooper instead, who's going against Washington. So that's yeah.
Let's see here. According to ESPN, the Saints secondary is against wide receivers is the 22nd best amongst in the NFL. So you know, it's a bottom third. So I would say that Jalen Waddle is a decent play against the Saints defense. So there's that. All right, we are moving on. Sorry, I know that took a little
enough
bit.
about my that was a lot of time on just one.
That was a good little discussion, bro. All right, moving on. We've got Tyler versus Jay, the ER on the left side, which is Tyler. He's got Lamar Jackson there. Are you playing Lamar Jackson this week? Like, if he's healthy and he's on your team, are you playing him?
I think you have to, because I can't imagine you. I mean, spending up on what you did to get Lamar. I think he was like a 4th or a 5th round pick this year. I can't imagine you have another like top end option on your team. So, assuming he plays, I think you have to. I mean, his rushing ability alone is enough. Like, it gives him a safe floor. Like specifically for Tyler's team, hypothetically, he's got Kirk Cousins going up against the Rams defense. I mean, I would start Lamar this week instead, going up against Cincinnati versus Cousins against the Rams. Nothing against Cousins, but just don't like that matchup. So with the number of other guys having issues, I mean, like even Mahomes losing 2 of his weapons this week, Brady having potentially 2 of his top guys out. I mean, there's not just a lot of other elite options. So I feel like if you have Lamar at this point, you probably have to start him, assuming he plays.
Okay. If I have Lamar, I have no confidence in him. If I'm in the playoffs, like, it should be one of those things like you have Lamar Jackson. He's a top 12 quarterback. He should play. But I'm S in my P's at this point. Would you let me throw out a few names here. If you had Joe Burrow available, would you play Joe Burrow over Lamar Jackson?
No. I'll go Lamar this week.
Okay.
It's close.
Let's see here. How about Carson Wentz?
Ooh, they're going against the Cardinals, right?
Yes.
I believe. I would probably still go Lamar there because I think the Cardinals defense is good and Wentz doesn't really run and they're using Taylor like crazy.
Okay, and then the last one that I will put out there, it's more of a running quarterback, not elite,
excellent.
but how about Cam Newton? Would you start Cam Newton over Lamar Jackson?
Oh, that's tough. Cam's going against the Bucks, if I remember right, so probably not again, just based on matchups. Like, if they were in a vacuum, maybe it's a little bit closer, but I feel like they both run a lot as quarterbacks, and Lamar is, even though he's not a great passer, he's a better passer than Cam, and he has better weapons. So I would probably go Lamar for all 3 of those.
Okay. I probably would go. Oh man, I'd probably go Joe Burrow over Lamar, but then I would probably go Lamar over the other 2.
Burrow was the closest for me of the 3, if that says anything.
Yeah, I would say Burrow's.
For me, it would be like Lamar, barely, Burrow, Wentz, Cam.
Yeah. Looking at the rest of Tyler's team, it all looks good except for Tyler Conklin. I have until it has been proven to me, I will not start a Minnesota tight end ever. I am not drafting one. I am not starting one. You have a tight end that might score a touchdown here or there, maybe a couple weeks in a row. But then after that, Minnesota tight ends for the longest time have been irrelevant. Even when we had Rudolph, he might have been top 12, but that's not really saying anything. Like, Kyle Rudolph would not win games for you on your team. And there hasn't been a tight end in Minnesota that will do that. Ertz hasn't proved it.
Smith might next year.
Irv Smith might, but we've been talking him up. And
if he was picked as a breakout pick in tight end this year until he got hurt right off the bat. So I think his athleticism, he could be one of those like guys that sneaks into that like 6, 7, 8, 9 tight end range next year.
I just feel like there isn't enough targets to go around for a Minnesota tight end to be available.
With our run focused offense, I agree.
And when we do pass the ball, it's either going to Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen. I mean, so I agree. Realistically, a fantasy tight end for Minnesota, unless one of those players leaves or we drastically change our offense, it's Minnesota tight ends I'm out on. So moving on over to Jay's team. I can't see anybody on his team that I would not want to start. So Jay, good lineup, sir.
COVID. Brandon Cooks is the only one I'm worried about with COVID. He's on the IR as of now, and they're waiting to find out. But obviously, if he's active, you start him. If he's inactive, just to give people an option, I would probably sub. Well, you have a Renfro on the flex. So you've got your wide receiver 2 there. So then you're just picking a flex. And really, the only one that would remotely even interest me is AJ Green, just with Hopkins out. The rest of his bench really does nothing. So
what about Zach Ertz?
I wouldn't do a 2 tight end stack if I had the option. I would go AJ Green over Zach Ertz just because I think he'll get more volume.
Okay.
I mean, he had 8 targets last week, so I feel better about that. Plus, just being a big body receiver, maybe getting a red zone look. So, that's me.
All right. I feel like Ertz is interesting to think about, but I feel like you are correct that AJ Green would be a better play.
I don't hate it if Ertz is like kind of the tight end option that you're forced to start. Obviously, in Jay's case, he's got Dallas Goedert instead, who I like better. But if Ertz is your only tight end on the team, I would feel good about him in your lineup. I just wouldn't go out of my way to force him and Goddard both into my lineup.
Let me ask you this here real quick. Would you play would you pick up an Emmanuel Sanders and slide him in?
I heard he's practicing again this week, but there's no reports on whether he's going to play, so I'd be a little nervous. I would still probably go AJ Green over him this week, just for more of the guaranteed volume.
How about Jamison Crowder?
No. Okay. I'd rather rely on Kyler than I would Zach Wilson.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Looking at our waiver wire here, I don't see any other names that will help us in our flex right now. So Jay's lineup is looking pretty set. All right, we're moving on.
All right.
Our next one that we have
last 2 for the playoffs that are alive.
All right, we have RIP in peace. That's Ben. He's got Matt Stafford, Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, Michael Gallup, Antonio Brown, George Kittle, Chase Edmonds, Colts defense, and Matt Gay as the kicker. 2 things that I wanted to talk about on Ben's team real quick. How confident are you in starting Antonio Brown in the playoffs? This is his first week back. You have, let's see here, Mike Evans has been hurt. I don't know if he's been practicing this week, but he is questionable for this week. And then you have Godwin with an ACL tear who is out on the year. Are you starting Antonio Brown if he is in your lineup?
100%. I feel like this is a guy that I'm finding my way to get in. If you're blessed with great receivers, fine, make him be your flex, but I feel like he's at least a wide receiver 2. In the weeks that he played, he was in for 5 weeks. I think he got hurt week 2 and then he missed week 3. So really he's only played 4 weeks fully. And 3 out of those 4, he had 15 or more points. He had 4 touchdowns in the 4 full games he played. Brady peppered him with 7 targets, 11 targets, 8 targets, 13. Brady loves Antonio Brown. And that was when we had Godwin and Mike Evans healthy. So, I mean, the fact that Godwin's out, and even if Evans plays, he'll be banged up. Evans is the deep route guy, the red zone guy. Brown is going to be the guy cutting across the middle in the slot. So I think assuming he's healthy, he's going to get fed, and he'd be a really, really good pickup if he's not already owned for some reason. Maybe people would have dropped him if they didn't have an IR spot in their league. So really confident on him. I think he could be a league winner the next couple of weeks.
Okay. And I see that Chase Edmonds is in his flex. I'm assuming he's heard about Alexander Madison. I'm assuming will be putting him into his flex. Would you slide Montgomery down into your flex and then put Madison up at the RB2 and then obviously, would you start David Montgomery even after the piss poor week he had last week?
Yeah, I would still start Montgomery. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter who you put in your flex because they're both, I believe, playing Sunday. But like if you're asking between the two of them, like maybe you've only got one spot left and, you can't put both of them in as your flex, I would start Madison probably over Montgomery just because he has done really well. I don't love the matchup with the Rams this week, but I think Madison has performed when given the workload. And like we said before, the Vikings do run the ball a lot. So I would probably go him, but yeah, barring some other crazy, really good deep lineup, I would find a way to put Montgomery and him both in.
Van Jefferson and Russell Gage are sitting on Ben's bench. There's obviously no way that they're going to be sliding into this matchup here. But if you do have them, do you feel that those two players, based on their matchups that they have this week, do you feel like they are flex-worthy plays, or would you be comfortable sliding them into a wide receiver 2?
Yeah, on a different team, I think Van Jefferson's a decent flex play. I don't really expect him to be great because of how dominant of target share Cooper Kupp's getting. And then when Odell is healthy, he's been looking better recently. So I think he's more of a flex play for me. But Russell Gage, I would actually be tempted to play him over Michael Gallup personally. Gallup being the third receiving option on that Cowboys team. I just think Russell Gage has been doing better and getting a little bit more volume. So he's probably got a safer floor. So of those two, I would go Gage.
Yeah, I would put Gage in as a flex and a low end wide receiver 2, and then Van Jefferson, most likely a desperation flex is where I would place those. But I do like Van Jefferson's matchup on the week. Looking over at Jordan's team, he's got Taysom Hill, Melvin Gordon, Ramondre Stevenson, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Dawson Knox, CeeDee Lamb, the Eagles defense, and Matt Prater. I do not like Taysom Hill. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I would much rather start Russell Wilson. The only thing that Taysom Hill has going for him is that he has the running floor. Yeah. And actually, it looks like he's out. He's been ruled out as of today. So Jordan has since then slid in Russell Wilson as his quarterback. Looking at Jordan's team, it's very, very scary. Michael Carter, what are your thoughts on starting Mike? Because he actually put in Michael Carter over Ramondre Stevenson. Now, do you agree with that that move?
I would put him over Stevenson unless for some reason Damian Harris is out again, because at least Michael Carter, is going to get the workload for the Jets. But I don't know that I love him. I mean, he had some good weeks in the middle of the season, but then he only had 6.5 the week before he got hurt. He missed 3 weeks, then came back against Miami and only put up 2 points. So yes, they're playing the Jags this week, but I don't know that I love it. Unfortunately for Jordan, I just don't think he has a better option. But I think for other people out there, if you have Michael Carter, assuming you have another decent option, I would probably go away from Carter. He's more of like a mid flex for me, or an RB3 rather than RB2.
Yep. And then if Damian Harris does not play, Ramondre Stevenson should be in your RB2 slot or your flex spot.
Yeah, 100%. Then I would sub him in over Carter.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. All right. We are going to be moving on to our last
matchup.
I pushed it one too many times. All right.
Okay.
It is Kiss My Bass, Paul Foster versus the Zim Reaper, Ryan Panic Man Walters. Over on Foster's side, we have Josh Allen, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jeff Wilson Jr., Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, who is questionable, Mark Andrews, Gabriel Davis, the Cowboys defense, and Tyler Bass. Looking at the current matchup of it, let's see if Foster has changed anything. He has not. Okay, perfect. What are your thoughts on Gabriel Davis this week?
Yeah, I don't hate it. Going up against the Patriots is tough, but he's been doing really, really well. He has 4 touchdowns over the last 3 weeks. So, I mean, Josh Allen's looking his way. I think my biggest question mark for Foster's team is going to be whether Mike Evans plays, because obviously if he's in, you start him. If he's not, I would definitely sub in Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think I talked about him earlier, and I think he's been surging and doing really well, especially against Atlanta. I think he has a chance to do well. I would even be tempted to rank him above Gabriel Davis for me, just because I think Davis has been more reliant on touchdowns, and the Patriots are usually pretty good about shutting down opposing offenses. So I would consider subbing in Amon-Ra St. Brown over Gabe Davis, and then just basically having it come down to whether Mike Evans plays, and if not, put Davis back in. But overall, Foster, just looking at his team, we talked about it. Me and him talked about it earlier, like the fact that he made a good call starting Jeff Wilson so far tonight, but he's missing Fournette, who's out for the next 3+ weeks. I mean, Mike Evans might not play. Elijah Mitchell's been out for several weeks now, so he's just kind of fighting through some injury issues. So I don't know that he has a lot of other options to do on his team.
Excuse me. Holy cow. All right. I was looking at this and I'm like, Amon-Ra St. Brown over Devontae Parker. But looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown's targets, he's had double-digit targets the last 3 weeks, which is really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you have to deal with the crappiness that is Jared Goff. Actually,
They're always playing from behind. I mean,
yeah, well, that's true. But I don't know. I just like Devontae Parker so much. I don't know why I have so much confidence in him. He's a good player.
But he's got to deal with Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
Taking
but even
all
when
his targets
Jalen
away.
Waddle did they play in a game together where they were both in at the same time? I thought
It's a great question.
I thought he did.
Week 13 to 15. I'll check while you're talking.
It must have been 13 because 15 Waddle didn't play. So
yeah, week 13 Waddle had 9 catches out of 11 targets for 90 yards.
Okay.
And yeah.
Yep. So Amon-Ra St. Brown definitely would be the go-to here for that one. I probably would put him in over Gabriel Davis, especially. I think you might have said if Emmanuel Sanders comes back, I think Gabe Davis, definitely will see a decline in the targets. So I would probably put in Amon-Ra St. Brown. One more name that I do want to talk about. Jamal Williams. He might be the starting running back this week if DeAndre Swift doesn't play. Yikes, that's gross. If you have Jamal Williams in your lineup, he's not going to crack Foster's lineup. Are you starting Jamal Williams as a flex play this week, or do you view him as a desperation flex?
If Swift is out, I'd put him as like a low RB2, especially against Atlanta, because I think they'll be able to move the ball pretty well. But yeah, if Swift is in, I think he's just like a desperation flex. If you absolutely have nobody else, I guess you can hope that he gets a few targets. But if Swift is in, I don't think there's really a reason to start him for most lineups, let alone Foster's.
Even if Swift is out, I view him as a desperation play. And if you need him,
I'd play him. I'd play him against the Falcons if Swift is out.
Yeah. He should be in your flex if Swift is out. So I don't have anything else to report on that. We have my team. We have Patrick Mahomes, Nick Chubb, Chuba Hubbard, T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel, Rob Gronkowski, Deontay Johnson, the Vikings defense, and Greg Zuerlein. Looking at this here, Chuba Hubbard is unfortunately going to be starting unless Austin Eckler does pass the COVID protocol and he is able to play. If he does play, I will be subbing him back in. But looking at this lineup, even with all the players on my bench that I do have, I feel like this is the best starting lineup that I'm going to be able to put out there.
I wouldn't change anything except Eckler, obviously, maybe.
Yeah, if Eckler's playing, I'm putting him back in because even if he hasn't practiced at all this week, this guy's a vet. He knows his shit, and I don't have any problems plugging him in. So, but if he's not playing, Justin Jackson, how do you feel about Justin Jackson this week?
I actually like him. I think he was getting a lot of carries last week, which frustrated me as an Eckler owner anywhere I can get my hands on him this year. Even with Eckler active, they were still giving Jackson the ball a lot. And so I think if Eckler's out, I think Jackson's a lot quicker. He's decent in the receiving game. He's good in the red zone. So I would start Jackson as an RB2, especially against the Texans this week if Eckler is out.
Okay. All right. That's pretty much going to do it. So
yeah,
that's it. So we made her through. It wasn't the worst thing.
If you had to do a quick pick without really going into it much, who would you pick for the winners of the two matchups for the playoffs?
Picking myself, I have to pick myself. I mean,
okay,
it's hard not to. Foster, when this whole thing started, like Foster, like the ESPN projection, I think was like the difference was less than 2 points. So it was a 51-49 percentage split. So it literally could go down the middle each way. If Foster wins, which it wouldn't surprise me. It would suck, but it literally wouldn't surprise me just because of how potent his team could be. Sitting over
his team was my pick. His team was my pick during the year as far as like the other contender because his team just looks so good on paper. And kudos to him if he can figure it out this week. No disrespect to you, but just because he's got like 3 to 4 different injury issues. So I mean, if he can get back-to-back playoff wins, that's shout out to him for doing a good job surviving.
Yeah, absolutely. Foster's had an amazing season. So shout out to him. Good luck this week, Foster. If I'm gonna pick between Jordan and Ben. No disrespect to my boy Jay Wow, but I'm picking Ben. I just think.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be surprising with that because Jordan's favored, but I was actually going to pick Ben too.
Yeah, no, I have way more confidence in Ben's team than so.
Now that if he puts Madison in, I think he'll win.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, yeah. It all depends. I mean, Madison might not have a good game at all. You have. Nwangu might do something. Plus, you're going up against the LA Rams, dude. That's tough.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Good luck this weekend to Ben and Jordan and Foster, and especially to myself. I hope Austin Eckler plays. Please, fantasy gods, let Austin Eckler play. That would be fantastic. A few quick things. I just wanted to remind everybody that we have no show next Thursday. Please join us on Friday at 10 a.m. for our New Year's Eve championship week podcast. Also, please remember that after the fantasy season is over, so in 2 weeks, I think? Yes. 3 weeks. We'll have 1 week, week 18, where there will be, we'll have a podcast because it's week 18. There's not going to be much to talk about except for who was the fantasy champion and maybe some other topics. But once the NFL playoffs do start, there will be our NFL playoff fantasy game that we are going to be getting started. That is going to be run through a website. If you are interested, please join the Discord and let me know on Discord if you guys want to play. We'll get you guys signed up on that website. And then throughout the NFL playoffs, each week we'll be bringing a live episode to talk about the NFL games and to talk a little bit about that fantasy game that we'll be playing. So there will be fantasy in the NFL postseason. So be sure to stick around and keep watching. I don't think I have any other show announcements. Nope. Jack, it doesn't sound like you have anything else either.
No. I'm good.
Sweet man. Let me see. Let's just get this going. Jack, it's been fantastic. We had some bumpy roads, but that's okay. We made it all the way through. I just want to wish you and Christine a very Merry Christmas. I want to wish all of our listeners out there a happy holidays and Merry Christmas, whatever you guys are doing. Stay safe out there. Enjoy family time. We're going to be playing video games this weekend, so if you see me streaming, feel free to hop in on chat, join the Discord, do whatever. We're going to be having a great old time. Jack, what do you have to finish her off, boy?
I heard, what do I have? Just besides like 8 different Christmases coming up for all the different sides of our families, not a whole lot else. Ready to celebrate with some different family members and close the year off right. So we will be back next week for most people's championship rounds.
All right, right on, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great holiday weekend and stay safe. Have a great night. Night, Jack. Bye. All right, everybody. I just want to say thank you so much for checking us out here tonight on Twitch. I appreciate everybody. I see Face Esquire there in the chat. What up, Fantasy Football Hacks? How we doing? I see we had Trebek 43. You guys go check out the Land podcast. That's another fantasy football podcast. Those guys, they're a little more off the cuff. They don't get nearly as nerdy as what we do here, but it is definitely an entertaining listen. And shout out to Al and Dave over there at the Land podcast. Really great content that those guys put out. And I also want to give a shout out to Garlissimo. That would be Garlic Johnson. He is over there at the Hidden Oaks Overdose Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. Make sure you guys check those guys out too. They get pretty hardcore into football over there. So shout out to Gar and Josh over there at the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix. Thanks guys for checking us all out, hitting us up in the chat. I want to thank everybody for following my channel here. We are trying to get affiliate here on this channel. So if you know anybody who likes fantasy football, who likes video games, whatever, share this Twitch handle. You can find us each week here on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/PanicManWalters. And we just look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a great holiday weekend. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. And let's go watch some football. Have a good night. Bye.